Have you ever felt like someone was trying to control your life on your own property? Well, what I'm about to share with you happened to me just last year, and it still gives me chills thinking about it. This is the true story of how a fake HOA tried to steal my dream home before I even moved in, and how I turned the tables on them. If you've ever dealt with an overzealous HOA, or just love a good David versus Goliath story, you're going to want to stick around. And if this resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps small channels like mine. It's a beautiful Friday evening in October. I had just signed the papers on my dream home, a gorgeous property sitting on 2 full acres at the edge of town. No neighbors breathing down my neck. No cookie-cutter subdivision rules. The realtor had been crystal clear during closing. This property has never been part of any HOA. That's one of its biggest selling points. I was there just to check the utilities and measure for furniture. The moving truck was coming Saturday morning. I had my whole life planned out on this peaceful piece of land as I'm locking the front door. Feeling like the luckiest person alive, I hear footsteps on the gravel behind me. I turn around, and there are 3 people walking up my driveway like they own the place. 2 middle-aged men in matching polo shirts, clipboards in hand, and a woman in a business blazer who had this ... look. You know, the look, the kind that says, "I'm about to ruin your day." The woman steps forward with this practiced smile that reminded me of a shark. "Excuse me," she says, actually blocking my path to my own car. "We need to talk before you move in tomorrow. I'm confused." "I'm sorry, who are you exactly?" "We're from the Silver Pines Homeowners Association," she announces, like she's introducing royalty. "I'm Linda Patterson, the president. Before you can occupy this property, you'll need to complete your membership application and agree to our community standards." Now, friends, let me tell you, my blood pressure shot up like a rocket. "I think there's been some mistake," I said, trying to stay calm. "This property isn't part of your HOA. Linda actually laughs, not a friendly laugh, but that condescending chuckle that makes your skin crawl. "Honey, every single property on this entire road belongs to Silver Pines HOA. We maintain the streets, we protect property values, and we ensure community standards. You simply cannot move in until you've signed these documents." She shoves this thick packet into my hands. Had to be 50 pages. I'm flipping through it, and my jaw is dropping with every page. Paint color requirements. Mailbox specifications. Lawn height restrictions, not just keep it neat, but specific measurements. Pet size limits. Even rules about what kind of cars you could park in your own driveway. And then I saw the fee. $800. Per month. $800. That was almost as much as my mortgage payment. I looked up at her and just started laughing. I couldn't help it. "Ma'am, I bought this house specifically because it's not in an HOA. I checked. My attorney checked. My realtor triple-checked. You have no authority over me or my property." The fake smile vanished instantly. Her eyes went cold and her voice dropped to this threatening whisper. "If you attempt to move in without compliance, we'll take immediate legal action. We've stopped other troublemakers before. Don't think you're special, standing there in my own driveway." Being threatened by complete strangers, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. These people weren't just mistaken. They were running some kind of scam. They thought I was going to be their next victim. That night, I sat at my kitchen table until 2 a.m., reading every word of their so-called bylaws. The more I read, the more outraged I became. They wanted the right to inspect my property whenever they felt like it. They could fine me for having unauthorized guests stay overnight. They even claimed the right to approve or disapprove any landscaping changes, down to the color of flowers I could plant. This wasn't a homeowners association. This was a dictatorship. First thing Saturday morning, I'm on the phone with my realtor. "Sarah," I said, "please tell me you have some explanation for why 3 people showed up at my house last night, claiming I can't move in until I join their HOA." There was dead silence. "Then, that's impossible. I personally verified during closing that your property is not part of Silver Pines. They've been trying to expand their territory for years. But they never got legal authority. They're bluffing, and it's probably illegal. Well, bluffing or not, they weren't done with me. The moving truck was scheduled for 9 a.m. At 8:30, I pull into my driveway, and there's Linda, standing at the end of my driveway like a security guard. She's got her arms crossed, wearing the same blazer from yesterday. With that clipboard clutched to her chest like a weapon, the moving truck pulls up. And she actually steps in front of it, hands up like she's directing traffic. "You cannot unload here." She shouts to the driver, "This property is not authorized for occupancy." The poor driver, this sweet older gentleman who's probably moved thousands of families, looks at me like he's caught in the middle of a divorce. "Ma'am," he says to me quietly, "I don't want any trouble. Maybe we should come back another day?" That's when something inside me snapped. I walked right up to Linda, looked her in the eye, and said in my clearest, calmest voice, "This is my property. I have the deed, I have the keys, and this truck is going to unload my belongings right now. If you don't move off my driveway immediately, I'm calling the sheriff for trespassing." She tried to stare me down, but I didn't budge. Finally, she stomped back to her SUV. But she didn't leave. She parked right across the street and watched us all day, taking notes on that clipboard like she was gathering evidence for some kind of case. But here's what Linda didn't know. I wasn't just some pushover homeowner who would fold under pressure. I spent 30 years working in corporate management, dealing with bullies and liars every day. And I had something she didn't expect: time, determination, and a very stubborn streak when someone tries to take advantage of me. That week, I went to war. But instead of fighting with emotions, I fought with facts. I spent an entire day at the county recorder's office, and let me tell you, the clerk who helped me was a godsend. Her name was Margaret. She'd been working there for 20 years. "Oh, honey," she said when I explained what was happening, "you're not the first person they've tried this with. Let me pull everything we have." What we found was incredible. My property deed, clear as day, not part of Silver Pines subdivision. The HOA's original charter and boundaries, filed in 1987, ended 3 full streets away from my house. There was no paperwork, no annexation agreement, no legal connection whatsoever. Margaret shook her head. "They've been pulling this scam for at least 5 years. We've had a dozen people come in here scared to death that they're going to lose their homes. It's heartbreaking." Armed with copies of every relevant document, I felt ready for round 2. But Linda and her crew weren't finished trying to intimidate me. Over the next 2 weeks, I found threatening letters taped to my door almost daily. Notice of violation for unauthorized occupancy. Final warning about unpaid dues. Lien notice, claiming they would put a hold on my property if I didn't pay $800 immediately. Each letter was designed to scare me, to make me think I was about to lose everything. And I'll be honest with you, if I hadn't done my research, if I hadn't known the truth, these letters would have terrified me. But instead of scaring me, they made me angry. These people were probably terrorizing elderly neighbors, single mothers, anyone who didn't know how to fight back. This wasn't just about my house anymore. This was about stopping predators who preyed on good people. So I started documenting everything. Every letter, every encounter, every threat. I bought a small camera for my front door. I started recording our conversations on my phone, and then I called the sheriff. Deputy Martinez had heard this story before. "Ma'am," he said, sitting in my living room. "Looking through my stack of evidence, Silver Pines HOA has been a problem for years. We get complaints about them monthly, but they always find ways to skirt just on the edge of legal harassment. What can I do?" I asked. "Keep documenting everything. Don't engage with them alone. Always have a witness or a recording. And consider filing a formal complaint with the Attorney General's office. They handle HOA fraud cases." The breaking point came 2 days later. I found a certified letter in my mailbox that made my hands shake with rage. They were scheduling a mandatory compliance inspection of my property. They were giving themselves permission to enter my yard, whether I was home or not that night. I sat down and wrote the letter that would change everything. I wasn't going to be polite anymore. I wasn't going to be diplomatic. I was going to use their own aggressive tactics against them. To the Silver Pines HOA board, I wrote, "This property is not, has never been, and will never be part of your association. Any attempt to enter my property will be considered criminal trespassing, and I will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. Any further harassment will result in civil litigation for damages fraud. An intentional infliction of emotional distress. I sent copies to Linda, every board member I could identify, in the sheriff's office. But I didn't stop there. Using my pile of evidence, I filed formal complaints with the state attorney general and the Better Business Bureau. I also did something that Linda never saw coming. I called Channel 7 News. The reporter, Jessica Chen, had covered HOA abuse stories before. When I explained what was happening, she was immediately interested. "We've been looking for a clear-cut case like this," she said. "Would you be willing to go on camera?" 2 weeks later, the story was the lead segment on the evening news. Local HOA accused of harassment, targeting properties outside their jurisdiction. They showed footage of my deed, interviewed me in my living room, and even caught Linda on camera refusing to comment as she hurried to her car. The response was overwhelming. My phone rang for 3 days straight. Neighbors who had been quietly bullied by Silver Pines, sharing their own horror stories. Fines for having the wrong color mailbox. Threats of foreclosure for parking an RV in their own driveway. Elderly residents who had paid thousands in bogus fees because they were too scared to fight. Back, it became a full-blown scandal. The local newspaper picked up the story. Social media lit up with Silver Pine scam posts. And Linda, she was furious. She actually showed up at my house one evening, screaming about slander and threatening to sue me for ruining her reputation. But as she's standing in my driveway, red-faced and ranting, a sheriff's car pulls up. Deputy Martinez steps out and calmly informs her that she's now under investigation for fraud, and she needs to leave my property immediately. For the first time in months, I felt like I was winning. But the best part of this story was still to come. 3 months later, the Attorney General's office completed their investigation. The findings were devastating. Silver Pines HOA had been running an illegal expansion scheme for over 6 years. They had collected nearly $400,000 in fraudulent fees from properties not legally bound to their association. The state ordered them to refund every penny to their victims. Several board members resigned immediately. Linda herself was facing multiple civil lawsuits and potential criminal charges for fraud. But here's the part that felt like the sweetest victory. With the help of an excellent attorney, I filed my own lawsuit against the HOA for harassment, attempted extortion, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The settlement I received was enough to pay off 40% of my mortgage. But more importantly, it sent a message to every bully HOA in the state. Pick on the wrong homeowner, and you might just lose everything. The day I got that settlement check, I threw the biggest barbecue you've ever seen. I invited every neighbor who had suffered under Silver Pines harassment. About 30 people showed up. We ate, we laughed, we shared war stories, and we celebrated freedom from tyranny. Reflective, satisfying conclusion. Linda drove past once during the party. She slowed down and glared from her SUV, but she didn't stop. She knew better now, standing there with a plate of barbecue in my hand. Looking out at my 2 beautiful acres of the land, I'd fought tooth and nail to claim as many. I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Complete peace. Friends, I'm sharing this story because I know there are others out there facing similar battles. Maybe it's not a fake HOA, but some other bully who thinks they can intimidate you into giving up your rights. Here's what I learned. Bullies count on you being too scared, too tired, or too overwhelmed to fight back. They prey on good people who just want to live their lives in peace. But when you stand up to them, when you document everything, get the law on your side, and refuse to back down, they crumble faster than you'd ever imagine. The only thing worse than a power-hungry HOA is one that picks the wrong homeowner to mess with. If this story helped you or inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up to bullies and fighting for what's right. And if you're dealing with something similar, remember you're stronger than you think, and you don't have to face it alone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.